Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and today we are doing the Gameweek 9 episode of the 100 Experts, the video where we take 100 experts, look at their data of what they are doing this weekend and try and figure out what this game week they're doing in terms of captaincy, who they're transferring in, who they're transferring out, are they using any of their chips this week, and if there's any consistent trends that seem to reoccur, then obviously maybe that's a kind of a good move for all of us to go for. So this is definitely my favorite video of the week to make because it helps me and my FPL team so much to see what other people are doing, and if it helps you too, please do leave a like. It really does help out the channel so much as we head towards the end of the international break, and do subscribe if you're new around here as well. Without further ado guys, let's have a look at the experts today. Okay, there you go guys, 100 names in all of their glory. Thank you so much to everyone who got involved, and I need to try and figure out a way of rewarding you guys. I think I'm going to have to put these names into some sort of raffle and start giving away, some Amazon gift cards or something, because they help out so much by providing their data each week. So yeah, massive shout out to these guys. If you see their names around anywhere, do go check them out and see what they're up to as well. Absolute legends. Alright, first of all, the overview data, I suppose. So we've got 44% of our expert managers making one transfer, 9% making two transfers, nobody is making three or more transfers. So I would say this is a game week where it's not like a crazy transfer kind of week, I don't think. It seems to be most people kind of making one transfer or no transfer, but we have seen 19% using their wild card. Obviously, we saw almost half use their wild card last week. So it seems like the last few people maybe using their wild card this game week, maybe there's just a couple more kind of people still holding on to their first wild card, but I imagine that most of the wild cards will have been eaten up by the end of the game week 9, by the game week 9 deadline anyway. And we've got 28% not making a transfer this week at all. A lot of that is to do with those wild cards being used last week. Therefore, if you wild carded last week, you're probably not going to be in a situation where you desperately need to make a transfer this week. So I think that's kind of the situation as well. A lot of those who wild carded last week are finding that they don't really need to make a transfer, but there are some exceptions. And I'll tell you what guys, in this video, there are some really key significant trends that are going to help you make a decision, and if you don't have this decision to make, then maybe you don't need to make a transfer as well, but all will be revealed very shortly. Okay, first of all, as we always do, we're going to have a look at the most popular transfers from all FPL managers in the world over the course of Game Week 9 so far. And you can see that Saliba is the #1 transfer in at the moment. Okay, you guys know how I feel about that one, but we'll move on. Tony is up there as well. Madison is up there. We've got Trippier, who seems to be kind of right up the top every single game week at the moment, doesn't he? Always a really popular transfer in. And some other names in there as well. Zaha, De Bruyne, Mitrovic, all kinds of names in there, which is pretty interesting. Now, guys, I have to say, this week, we are not seeing many trends between the overall manager, the casual manager, compared to the expert manager. There are some key differences here. A lot of these players are being completely ignored by experts. So I think it's one of those weeks where there's going to be a real battle between what is obvious to do and what is maybe not so obvious to do. And I wonder if this is a week where actually the experts get just kind of nip ahead of some of the more casual, less engaged FPL managers who are making some kind of transfers that maybe aren't such perceived as such high quality transfers according to experts. But let's go over this, guys. So first of all, who are the popular picks from our experts who are also on this list? And there are 4. So we've got Tony, Madison, Zaha, and Mitrovic. So those 4 players, not only are they popular overall, but they're also popular among our experts. Our experts like these players. So yeah, definitely players we can consider going for. Everyone's on the same page. However, there are some players where everyone is just not on the same page about at all. There's a decent amount of players who are not only not being bought in by any of our expert managers, but they're also being sold by our expert FPL managers. So the players being sold are not sold, but the players with no interest whatsoever, less than negative interest, are Saliba, De Bruyne, Son, McAllister, and Isaac. Coincidentally, Saliba and McAllister were in my avoid section of the buy, sell, keep, avoid video I uploaded yesterday. Do go check that out if you want to hear a little bit more about the justification as to why these kind of players are avoids. But yeah, if you don't want to listen to me about Saliba, because I know I have been banging this drum a little bit, how the most popular transfer of the week so far, it just no one who is none of the top managers are going to be going for Saliba this week. None of them, not a single one. It's just not looking good. The fixtures are bad. The price is a little bit more than it once was, and the returns that he's getting so far are just not showing that they will be consistent. Arsenal also have some defensive issues, some injuries in the defensive areas, which could allow them to concede a few more goals. It's just not looking like a good transfer. So if you don't believe me, look, the data is there now with our 100 experts, so maybe you'll believe them instead. But I don't know. We'll move on from that one, guys. All right, so for our experts transfers out, this is what we've got. So the most popular transfer out at the moment, we've got 53 of our experts making just normal transfers. So those are, the ones that aren't on a wild card, the ones that aren't rolling their transfers. So there's 53 of them. And Isak is the most popular transfer out, namely because of his injury. He's been very, very heavily reported now that he has got a bit of an injury and he is going to be out for a couple of weeks. If he is going to be out for a couple of weeks, you probably want to move him on. Those forward slots are so valuable at the moment that we do need to make sure that we've got 3 forwards playing pretty much at all times at the moment. So Isak is going to be a really popular transfer out. So that's maybe a reason for you guys to make a transfer. If you have got Isak in your team, that's a really obvious player to be selling right now just because of the injury situation. There are a couple other players in there. You've got Pascal Gross, obviously, because Brighton, unknown quantity, difficult fixtures, a bit of a tricky one. Again, we talked about Pascal Gross in yesterday's video, so check that out if you want to. We've got like Arsenal players in here, Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, all pretty high up. So Arsenal players are, having a bit of an exodus, I suppose, because they've got difficult fixtures. Obviously, they blank in game week 12 as well. And there's some other players. We've actually got a few Man City players. Again, maybe to do with the fact that there is this blank in game week 12. You can see De Bruyne on there. You can see Foden, Cancelo as well. So yeah, it's kind of seems a situation where the players being sold are either injured or playing for a team that has got difficult fixtures or is blanking soon, and that kind of seems to be a bit of a trend this way. But yeah, very clear favourites to be sold are Isak, obviously, Jesus, Gross, maybe Saka. I mean, to be fair, everything under number 4 is maybe kind of optional sells, I think, to be honest, but there is a few players at least at the top where we can keep an eye on for a sell. In terms of a buy, we've got 2 clear favourites among our experts of players to be buying this game week. So I guess there's 2 real top targets for you guys to go for this week. And that is James Maddison, who we've spoken about a lot already. That's a really obvious one. And also Ivan Toney. So yeah, maybe Ivan Toney is a player you can go for as well. Obviously, he's got a really nice fixture this game week, hasn't he? So yeah, it's a decent pick to go for if you fancy a little go on Toney against Bournemouth. Could be pretty good. We've got some other players on there as well, aside from Maddison and Toney, though, that have kind of got a few transfers in, a little bit of interest in Solanke, Zaha, Barnes, Salah, Sterling, Wilson. So there are a few other players with a little bit of interest, but to me, at least, there is just 2 real clear players there, Maddison, Toney. And aside from Maddison, Toney, I don't think any of these players are necessarily must-buys. I'd say maybe Mitrovic is arguably a must-buy. I know a lot of our experts already have Mitrovic, which is kind of reflected in the fact that, he's not got many transfers in, but he's still, a really, really high-quality player. Solanke is an interesting differential. Zaha is an interesting one as well. Interesting to see Salah back in the popular transfers in as well. I'm sure you guys didn't see that one coming. And yeah, just a couple other players there. So yeah, Maddison and Toney, aside from that, I don't even think you need to make a transfer. Alright guys, let's suggest some transfers. So first of all, the Maddison route, and Maddison is really difficult. So when I look through the data of the players that were being sold from my experts, what I saw was this huge list of all kinds of different midfielders, and each one of them was being sold like once each. So like one person was selling Kulusevski, one person was selling Gundogan, one person was selling Luis Diaz maybe, etc, etc, etc. So loads of different people will have all kinds of different ways of trying to get Maddison in, and I'm sure it's going to be the similar situation for you guys where you're going to have your unique way of getting Maddison in. So it's difficult for me to say there is one route to get Maddison in, because I don't think there is. I think there's lots of different ways. But the most popular transfers out in the midfield position among our experts were Gross, Saka and Martinelli, which suggests to me that maybe these are going to be similar ways that you guys are going to be getting Maddison into your team. Obviously, Pascal Gross is a significantly different in price, so you're going to have to free up some money somewhere. Martinelli, similar situation. Saka is a little bit more like for like, I suppose, so that's a slightly more easier route, maybe, I guess. But yeah, maybe those are some routes you can take, but I think you guys are going to have to kind of improvise a little bit on this one on how you're going to get Maddison in, because he is the #1 target of the game week, and it's going to be different depending on who you are getting that player in. Right, the other big thing, the other big trend was removing Isak. So I'm going to suggest some ways of removing Isak as well. And it seemed to me, with the experts, there's 3 major players you can bring in to replace Isak. The #1 slot, but the choice by a long way, is Toney. So Toney really is the #1 choice by a significant margin. Yeah, so he's definitely the obvious one. Now, if you want to replace Isak, you want to go for someone obvious, it's Tony. I would arguably say Mitrovic is even better than Tony as a transfer in, but obviously, a lot of you guys are going to already own Mitrovic, so maybe that's not as relevant. But yeah, if you don't have Mitrovic already, then he's definitely a very good Isak replacement. And a lot of people are going for Solanke as well, a much, much cheaper option there that is maybe a way of freeing up cash to kind of spend elsewhere. Maybe that's going to allow you to upgrade your Maddison to Maddison, for example. Maybe you can use the money well elsewhere. Or maybe you just fancy a punt on Solanke. I think he could be fairly decent for his money, but at the same time, you kind of got to remember that because he is so cheap, he's cheap for a very good reason, and you can't expect too much from him in that position. And maybe because those forward slots are so valuable, we maybe should be going for those real top forwards at the moment. So yeah, it's kind of up to you, but Solanke is definitely an option for you as well if you want to free up some cash and you can spend that cash elsewhere. Finally, guys, on to the captains, and there is 6 captain picks for this game week that were selected. Actually, technically, there was 7. We'll perhaps talk about that in a moment, but yeah, you'll notice this doesn't add up to 100%. This only adds up to 99%. I'll tell you the 1%er in just one moment. But at the top, no surprise, it's Erling Haaland. But Haaland is down at 62% at the moment in terms of our expert captain picks. I think people are getting bored already of captaining Haaland every game week, and I think people are starting to move away. I think the fact that Haaland plays against Manchester United is putting people off a little bit as well, because we think of Manchester United as this very big and difficult opponent, don't we? You know, we've seen Man City versus Manchester United games happen in the past where Manchester United have put up a very good fight in fairly recent years as well. And also, there's a lot of Manchester United fans out there who play FPL. I would say the Man United is the most popular club among, you know, fancy Premier League players and fancy Premier League managers. You know, a lot of Manchester United fans out there. A lot of you guys watching this video will be Man United fans, and maybe you'll be unwilling or less willing to captain Haaland against your own team, which is fair enough. So this week, I think we're actually going to see Haaland the lowest captaincy rates we've seen in quite some time. I'm not saying he's a differential, because we definitely can't say that he's a differential. He's still going to be super high owned, super high effective ownership. But what I can say is I believe, judging by everything I've seen online, in the comment section, over on Twitter, used through this data that I've collected for you guys today, is that Haaland is going to be a little bit more differential this week than he has been previously. Just putting that one out there. So other captains that you could potentially go for is Maddison and Salah. Both of them are on 15% each. So a decent amount of representation for both Maddison and Salah. 15% is a decent percentage. You know, when we're looking at 3%ers, 2%ers, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a little bit rogue. But when you look at 15%, that's actually a decent number there. That's a decent amount of people. So yeah, if you do fancy a go on Salah, you know, you want to have a go on Salah. Maybe that came out a little bit wrong. But if you do fancy going back on Salah, you want to have that renewed confidence in Salah, then fair enough. I think he is an option for those of you guys who still own Salah. Maddison as well. I know he's the big man to bring in this game week, but he's also a little captain option as well against Nottingham Forest. Played very well last game week against Spurs. You get the idea that Maddison is in one of his really hot veins of form, and if so, he's going to be scoring those 10-pointer pluses in a game like this. You know, Leicester never struggled to score goals. If Maddison is, you know, getting those really big scores, then he could be an insane differential captain. It's just a little bit risky to go against Haaland, isn't it? But I like this one. I like this one. I have to say, Maddison is my second favourite captain after Haaland. We also got some more differential ones. De Bruyne, 3%. That's, I guess, a bit of a trend. Maybe it's an option. But, you know, if you've got both Haaland and De Bruyne, you're probably not going to captain De Bruyne, are you? We've got Darwin Nunez there as well, so a little bit of faith in Liverpool. And Harry Kane against Arsenal. Two of our expert managers going for Harry Kane against Arsenal. Kane has a decent record against Arsenal, to be fair, and he's been showing some good form. So, look, you never know. It could happen. It could happen. And finally, in 7th place with just 1%, someone... I don't really know why, but I didn't want to exclude people from this based on the fact that their decisions were a little bit strange. You know, I only pick people I trust. Maybe they know something I don't, but 1% is going for Kieran Trippier against Fulham. I don't know why. I didn't want to include it on the graphic because I didn't want any of you guys to get any wild ideas, because I think that is a little bit too rogue. But look, sometimes, particularly if you're having a bad season, you can make these decisions where you try and take this real mega risk and just hope that it kind of pays off. These things do pay off occasionally, so maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but yeah, Trippier. Someone's captaining Trippier. Just putting that one out there. Let me know in the comments if you want me to exclude this person from all future 100 expert videos. Maybe. But yeah, Haaland, #1 captain. Again, no surprise. But you have got a couple of decent differentials in Maddison and Salah. And I think that's the message to take away from this captaincy section of the video. And there we have it, guys. That is the end. If you did enjoy today's video, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe as well if you're new around here. It all really helps the channel out so much and helps me keep producing this content for you guys. Of course, do check out Fantasy Football Hub. The link for them is in the description. They're still running an early season discount at the moment, so it might be worth you guys going and checking that out before the discount period ends, if you haven't done already, of course. I know a lot of you guys are already on Hub and absolutely loving it, which is absolutely music to my ears because I love it too. We've got my team, my personal team, my team selection video coming tomorrow. We're going to do a wildcard video on Friday, and then we're back in then the Premier League's back, then FPL's back. Wow, can't believe I'm saying it. So there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.